The atmosphere in Hollywood crackled with anticipation. All attention was fixed on the 25th BET Awards. Everyone expected the usual fanfare, the dazzling attire, the polished performances. But the one thing absolutely no one foresaw was Tyler Perry, the industry's quiet powerhouse and longtime confidant of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, approaching the microphone. His words weren't a roar, but a hushed statement that reverberated like thunder, tearing apart Meghan's carefully constructed public image. That night, everything changed. Recall the year 2020. Harry and Meghan had just detached themselves from their royal duties, entering a new world without a clear path forward. Who filled that void? Tyler Perry. He didn't just extend a helping hand, he offered a lifeline. The keys to his $18 million Beverly Hills estate, security details, bills paid, a genuine sanctuary in their time of need. From the outside, it appeared to be a selfless act of friendship, a man understanding the harsh glare of public scrutiny. Yet, as is often the case, the full truth lay concealed. That seemingly benevolent gesture, we now understand, gradually transformed into something far more lopsided. Sources close to Perry describe a quiet drain, both emotional and financial. He had suppressed his true feelings for years, but a breaking point was inevitable. This wasn't solely about money, it was about respect, or the profound absence of it. And that's what made his BET Award speech so utterly astonishing. Perry stood on that stage, a symbol of measured achievement, and recounted a story so pointed he didn't even need to use names. He spoke of offering his home, his assistance, his very compassion, only be abandoned the moment his generosity had served its purpose. Some folks borrow blessings like they're owed, but never return the favor, he remarked. The cameras didn't pan, but for those privy to the history, the accusations sliced through the air. A simple request, she called it, access to his private jet. No discussion of logistics, no mention of cost. When Perry, feeling exploited, politely declined, the alleged backlash from Meghan was immediate and sharp. That instant, insiders claim, was the real turning point. What began as a genuine act of kindness between friends had, according to those around Perry, soured into a pattern of breathtaking entitlement. He wasn't alone in this sentiment. Staffers, colleagues, even producers had privately cautioned him. Meghan doesn't repay favors. She accumulates them like social currency, then cuts people off when they stop serving her narrative. Perry, ever the optimist, initially dismissed these warnings. He believed in assisting those in need. But as the Netflix and Spotify millions poured in, as the gratitude remained conspicuously absent, the stark reality became undeniable. There was no plan for reciprocity. When Tyler Perry stepped onto that stage, he wasn't merely sharing an anecdote, he was making a definitive statement. Even the most giving among us have a limit, and when that limit is reached, silence is no longer an option. Meghan had meticulously built her brand around being a misunderstood woman, silenced by the crown. But Perry wasn't the crown. He was the man who opened his doors, without conditions, and now he was challenging her. Just like that, the fairy tale shimmered and cracked. The benefactor had become the truth teller. Hollywood's kindest individual had finally declared, "Enough is enough." The timing couldn't have been more disastrous. Meghan and Harry were just beginning to propose a new documentary project, touting themes of power and liberation. But after Perry's speech, investors began withdrawing. Trust, once a given, evaporated. The illusion was shattered. And Meghan's last truly powerful ally had just walked away. Hollywood, a place built on unwritten rules and mutual support, rarely takes sides publicly. But Tyler Perry isn't just anyone. He's a studio-owning mogul, revered for his empire and his quiet, dignified demeanor. So when he casts doubt, especially on someone he once protected, the ripple effect is immense. Phone calls commenced the very next morning. Producers linked to the Sussexes' latest Netflix pitch reportedly pulled their support within hours. An investor, having attended multiple planning meetings, stated bluntly, "I don't want to be involved in something that feels this toxic." This wasn't about the content, it was about the people behind it. Meghan's name, once an attraction, was now a warning sign. The question, of course, lingered. Where did Harry stand amidst this unfolding drama? His silence in the wake of Perry's bombshell became almost as deafening as the accusations themselves. Some close to the couple whispered of a man caught in an impossible predicament, attempting desperately to salvage what remained of their public image without further alienating a powerful Hollywood ally or openly contradicting his wife. Others painted a bleaker picture, a prince exhausted, burned out from years of relentless media battles, the brutal fallout with his own family, and now, watching their carefully constructed inner circle utterly collapse. Was he strategizing, or simply retreating into the quiet despair of a man who saw his aspirations slipping away? What transpires next, and how he chooses to respond, could very well dictate the final chapter of their American endeavor. Back at Archewell, Meghan's public relations machine went into overdrive. They contacted major media outlets, scrambling to reframe the narrative. Perry was bitter, out of touch, simply misinterpreting Meghan's pure intentions. They offered exclusives, behind-the-scenes access, even hinted at a podcast rebuttal, but none of it gained traction. Journalists didn't bite. If anything, the desperation made matters worse. It reeked of a cover-up. Behind the scenes, the chaos only deepened. Friends close to Perry revealed he hadn't wanted to go public, but felt cornered after years of alleged emotional manipulation. The final straw wasn't the private jet, nor a vague business proposal. It was the chilling realization that Meghan was not just ungrateful, she was actively weaponizing their friendship to gain influence. One source familiar with Perry's team recounted how Meghan had allegedly tried to leverage his name in early 2024 to access a funding circle, suggesting he was a silent backer without his permission. Perry was incensed. It was then he chose to speak out, not for gossip, but to protect his reputation from being co-opted. Then, other voices joined the chorus. A former assistant from Meghan's team described the work environment as emotionally draining, claiming Meghan demanded absolute loyalty and punished dissent. A producer who worked on the now-defunct Spotify deal said Meghan's obsession with perfection stifled every good idea. She didn't want partners, they stated. She wanted yes men. Even Oprah's inner circle, once thought to be close with Meghan, began to quietly distance themselves. Sources confirmed no friendly calls between the camps for months. When Perry's speech detonated, Oprah's team remained completely silent. No defense, no solidarity, just space. The dominoes were falling. Meghan had meticulously positioned herself as a symbol of female empowerment and independence. But now, that image was being dismantled by the very individuals who had once supported her. To many, it felt like a mask had been lifted. These weren't tabloid rumors. These were accounts from individuals who had worked with her, assisted her, and, in Perry's case, literally provided her with shelter. As the days passed, what began as one man's bold words spiraled into a cultural shift. Meghan Markle was no longer untouchable. The backlash wasn't just reputational, it began impacting her finances. Netflix reportedly reevaluated its long-term commitment. Other investors pulled out. Archewell's future looked increasingly precarious. Internal projects were paused, hires frozen, budgets scrutinized weekly. Public trust was unraveling. The underdog who challenged the monarchy, the voice of empowerment. These narratives were now dissected and doubted in real time. Even longtime fans fell silent. Media outlets once eager to publish glowing features were now holding back. Nobody wanted to risk aligning with a brand in freefall. The internal strife at Archewell became a whispered saga. Reports emerged of a revolving door of staff, each departure fueling more speculation about the demanding atmosphere. It wasn't just a challenge to keep projects afloat. It was a struggle to maintain any semblance of stability. For a brand built on relatability and authenticity, the mounting claims of a difficult workplace proved a brutal blow. The very foundation of her public image seemed to be crumbling from within. Meghan's carefully crafted narrative, once her greatest asset, was now her biggest vulnerability. Every past statement, every meticulously posed photo, was re-examined through the lens of Perry's unexpected accusation. The narrative of the misunderstood victim began to fray, replaced by questions about accountability. The public, often quick to embrace a compelling story, was now just as quick to dissect it when the cracks appeared. This wasn't merely a public relations crisis. It was an identity crisis playing out in real time. The silence from the Sussex camp, particularly from Harry, became increasingly conspicuous. While Meghan reportedly seethed behind closed doors, his public demeanor remained muted, a stark contrast to their usual united front. Was it a strategic withdrawal, an attempt to weather the storm, or something more profound? The questions only added fuel to the fire, as even their most ardent supporters began to voice concern over the persistent rumors and the lack of a clear, convincing counter-narrative. The impact reverberated beyond Hollywood's elite circles. Sponsorships that had once seemed guaranteed for Archewell projects began to quietly disappear. Collaborations that were in their infancy suddenly went dark. The once bright future of their media empire, poised for global expansion, now faced significant hurdles. This was more than just a setback. It was a fundamental challenge to their perceived influence and marketability. The once invincible shield of public sympathy that Meghan had skillfully wielded had shattered. The cultural conversation shifted dramatically. What was once seen as a noble escape from royal confines was now being reevaluated as a calculated move with a history of alleged exploitation. The public's perception, fickle as it can be, had decisively turned, and reclaiming that lost trust would prove to be an uphill battle, perhaps an impossible one. Behind closed doors, insiders claim Meghan fired furious texts at Perry after the BET speech, accusing him of betrayal, humiliation, and damaging her family's legacy. But Perry didn't reply. Not then, not ever. His silence spoke volumes. Friends of the Hollywood mogul confirmed he had been emotionally cornered for years, pressured to give more, say less, and stay loyal to someone who viewed loyalty as pure currency. Other voices echoed this. A respected publicist claimed Meghan's team tried to blacklist journalists for unscripted questions. A former Archewell consultant revealed Meghan often ignored strategic advice if it didn't reinforce her personal narrative. The stories were damning not for their drama, but for their consistent pattern: control, manipulation, and emotional leverage. Even major Hollywood names, once neutral, began to speak with caution. Studio executives whispered about the challenges of working with her team, joking it was like playing chess with a mirror. Nothing ever reflected truthfully. Everything was spin. And then came the numbers. Recent polls showed support for the Sussexes plummeting by over 30% in the US, while in the UK, they were already largely viewed as pariahs. Their once rising empire was now a warning sign. Through it all, Harry remained mostly silent. Some say he's trying to salvage what's left. Others believe he's simply exhausted, burned out from years of media battles, family fallout, and now, watching their inner circle collapse. Tyler Perry's speech wasn't loud or angry. It didn't need to be. It was honest, quiet, surgical. And that's what made it lethal. It didn't just expose one moment, it exposed a pattern. And in a town where reputation is everything, Meghan Markle just learned that even royalty can be exiled twice, once from the crown and now from the culture itself.